This week's episode was brought to you by Metatron 8, Anxiety of the Spectacle, Amanda Jean, Rio Burkaru, Tamara Arujazi, Ruth D, Eric Spencer, and Home Sauce. Thank you, Metatron 8, Anxiety of the Spectacle, Amanda Jean, Rio Burkaru, Tamara Arujazi, Ruth D, Eric Spencer, and Home Sauce. It's with the generous support of listeners just like you that helps keep our team of genetic engineers working round the clock to create new and exciting flavors of sentient gray matter that we produce with loving care inside a suspension of amniotic fluid and carrot juice, who then write the content for these episodes. If you'd like to help us grow better brains in jars, or just hear the second half of this episode, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 would not only get you access to our entire library of extended episodes, now conveniently integrated right into Spotify. I'll send you a 5x5 high-quality vinyl sticker of our Bunny Baphomet cover art and the secret keys to our top-secret Discord server where we can safely discuss the tiny aliens from Mexico. If you enjoyed our profile of alien races, please be sure to check out crypticchronicles.com, which has more great content from Mr. Tim Hacker, who helped us write this series. Special thanks to the generous souls who have contributed to Heka Astra's GoFundMe, which has made incredible progress towards keeping her and her pets off the street in her time of need during the fast approaching cold of the Canadian winter. With the money raised so far, we were able to take the first major steps towards getting a roof over her head with enough space to accommodate her leatherworking tools so she can resume supporting herself as normal. If you'd like to donate to her GoFundMe, please check out the link in the description below. In this week's episode, we continue our profile of the various alien races widely reported to interact with humans in both the present and ancient past. We begin the conversation by looking at the origins of UFO-religion from the 1950s, before investigating the beings from the brightest star in the sky, Sirius, and their representation in Dogon and Ancient Egyptian mythology. We also take a look at the notorious tall whites, which almost succeeded in cutting a trade deal with President Eisenhower, followed by the vindictive Annunaki race of creator gods featured in Sumerian, Babylonian, and Akkadian religion. In the extended episode, we talk about the Council of Nine, Gene Roddenberry, the strangely attractive yet predatory race of giant praying mantises, which we follow up by reviewing the details surrounding the Flatwoods Monster and the shootout with the little green men of Hopkinsville. Thank you, and enjoy the show. Why do aliens have a hard time paying attention to what people are saying?
Why?
Because they're spaced out.
Like me.
I feel that.
What if aliens are responsible for global warming?
What if?
It's just their way of breaking the ice. How do aliens harvest their crops?
How?
With tractor beams?
Nice. I'm just here on my human farm, growing humans.
We don't talk about that. That's classified.
Yeah. Hey, so where do aliens go for higher studies?
The university?
Oh.
How do aliens organize a party?
How?
They plan it.
Hello everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we don't just inform you about the different alien races cavorting with government employees involved in Black Book reverse engineering programs with security clearances above the president. Nay, we extend our astral brains out into the starry firmament to get a better grip on the hodgepodge of various alien groups that fraternize with humanity today and back into the ancient past, because this week we're doing part 2 of our profile on various alien races and the strange motivations they have for you and me. I'm your host, Luke Madrid, also known as the Hack Rabbit. I'm joined this week by the macro aggregate mystery, Mari Sama.
Ooh, woo, hello.
The magic musician machine, Malachor 5.
Greetings.
And the head of the holy hardware, Heka Astra.
Hello.
We're also joined this week by the ferocious gentleman, Mr. Tim Hacker, the illustrious host and creator of the Cryptic Chronicles podcast, who helped us create most of the content for this episode. Great to have you back, Tim.
Hi.
Welcome back.
I'm so ferocious.
And a gentleman. You're a fragentleman.
He's an enigma,
Very cryptic. Very happy to be back.
A fragigma.
a living dichotomy.
A lycotomy.
Aho!
I strive to be a walking paradox.
A wakadox.
Exactly.
See, we could come
much-
up with alien species ourselves.
A wakadox.
Yeah, they're hybrids with reptilioids.
They wear Doc Martin.
Only cargo shorts.
As we continue our profile of various known alien races, I think we'd be missing some of the story if we didn't explain that while many of these beings we've discussed are encountered during abduction scenarios, many of the fine details about them seem to be an embellishment of UFO religion, which became a thing in the 1950s. Well, that might seem wacky at first. It makes a bit more sense when we consider that UFO activity may have just been a staple of the human experience for as long as humans could grunt and point at the sky. Since then, perhaps it's only our interpretation of them that has changed, with the older mental models usually attributing these phenomena to gods, angels, or demons. However, UFO religion began its modern incarnation with a man named George Washington Van Tassel, a great name, who, alongside his claims of being abducted, also claimed to be in direct psychic contact with a confederacy of alien beings who, besides having a lot of good advice about spirituality and science, were attempting to warn us that the first atomic bomb would, well, destroy the Earth. And to be fair, this was a distinct possibility at the time. The suits were not entirely certain if detonating the first nuke would also ignite the ionosphere, turning the Earth itself into a giant fireball.
All right, boys, it's time to test this thing.
Sir, there's a chance you could ignite the ionosphere.
Push the red button. Do it now.
It kind of reminds me of the conspiracy theory they had about CERN opening a black hole and engulfing the entire planet in the solar system.
You know, there's only one way to find out, and that's to push the red button.
You got to do it.
What, are you not gonna push the red button?
Curiosity killed the cat.
It's one of those things where people would rather be miserable than bored. Like, you have to do it.
Oh, yeah.
They got that far. They spent that much money. What are they gonna do, not do it?
Gotta do it.
Van Tassel was born in Ohio, but moved to California in his 20s, becoming an aircraft mechanic and inspector who worked with Douglas Aircraft, Hughes Aircraft, and Lockheed through the 40s. This was before all those companies got like the second half of their name and became Black Book projects themselves. Or maybe they were becoming that already. Apparently, he was the best inspector, but retired early to live with his family in the Mojave Desert at Giant Rock, where he would eventually own a cafe, gas station, store, and landing strip. He leased it from the government and began building it out, as the story goes. So he may have been connected as well. In 1953, he began hosting a meditation group in a hollowed out room under Giant Rock, when shortly after, he was abducted by a spaceship from Venus whose inhabitants telepathically taught him techniques on how to heal the human body and the plans to what would eventually become the Integratron.
That sounds
Yeah.
legit.
So, from what I understand, there's a battle over who gets to play with the Integratron, and the hippies have taken it over, but we'll talk about that in a moment.
And they're doing this out in Joshua Tree.
Giant Rock in the Mojave Desert, I guess. Guess what? It's got big rocks.
Not just one giant one.
Well, there's this spot called Giant Rock in Joshua Tree that some crazy dude was living in for a bit. When the authorities came to kick him out, they blew him up with dynamite and cracked the giant rock in half.
Now it's called Too Little Rock.
It's still called Giant or Big Rock. Yeah.
According to Van Tassel, the Integratron was to be a structure for scientific research into time, anti-gravity, and at extending human life, built partially upon the research of Nikola Tesla and George Lakhovsky. Van Tassel described the Integratron as being created for scientific and spiritual research with the aim to research and rejuvenate people's cells, quote, a time machine for basic research on rejuvenation, anti-gravity, and time travel, unquote. The domed wood structure has a rotating metal apparatus on the outside he called an electrostatic die rod. Van Tassel claimed it was made of non-ferromagnetic materials like wood, concrete, glass, and fiberglass, lacking even metal screws or nails. The Integratron was never fully completed due to Van Tassel's sudden death a few weeks before the official opening. In recent times, some people who visit the unfinished Integratron claim to be rejuvenated by staying there and experiencing sound baths inside.
Yeah, so a bunch of stinky hippies took it over and started burning incense and doing mantras in there. But nobody's ever, like, turned it it on because it was never finished. And some people claim that if they did finish it, it would actually do what it was advertised to do.
Well, it's like a big insulating shell from what it sounds like to me, using a lot of natural and organic materials instead of, well, I mean, metal is organic too, but like insulating as in it doesn't conduct electromagnetic energy, kind of like isolates it. But in effect, I guess these guys are now using it as like a space yurt, is what I was going to say, or like a sweat lodge for aliens.
Yes. Now, in the 50s, Van Tassel would channel the, quote, first metaphysical superstar of the flying saucer age, whose name was Ashtar, the leader, of course, of the Ashtar Command, according to Van Tassel. This was the group of extraterrestrial good guys that were laboring to uplift humanity and protect it from evil. Likewise, folks like Jesus Christ, Saint Germain, Michael the Archangel, Lord Krishna, and just about any other mythic good guy was considered part of this group called the Ascended Masters, who are still a staple of the New Age movement today. It seems to go without saying, but many have noted Van Tassel was probably borrowing more than just a little bit of the ideas from Helena Blavatsky and her writings, specifically The Secret Doctrine. When the detonation of the first atomic bomb failed to produce the apocalyptic events foretold by Ashtar, interest in the Ashtar Command began to wane and became decentralized. Other channelers began to claim that they were also in contact with the Ashtar Command, but Van Tassel was adamant that they were phonies. Eventually, this idea would evolve into the Galactic Federation of Light, which we saw rise to popularity in the 1990s and still exists as a craze to this very day. Like, you could still go online and look up channeled messages from the Galactic Fed. As the story goes, the Galactic Federation of Light is often attributed to the channeled messages brought to us by Sheldon Niddle, who began posting his materials online in 1996 before a religion formed around it. Optimistic in its content, channeled messages from the Galactic Fed warned that humanity was on the brink of a great awakening, as Earth was due to cross a great photon belt whose high energetic particles would help us ascend into higher dimensions of awareness and supernatural ability. Part and parcel to this idea is that Earth is now being prepared for a mass-scale introduction into the Galactic Federation of Light itself, where we would become a member of the intergalactic family/government, not unlike how things are portrayed in Star Trek, Star Wars, The Fifth Element, or the original Mass Effect trilogy. It goes without saying, there are still plenty of people who, on the internet, hold out hope that the Galactic Federation of Light is almost ready to reveal themselves and save humanity from another 100 years of war, boredom, and capitalism. Naturally, some of the information we're presenting today is the sort of thing perpetuated by believers of this type. Frankly, I hope they're right, but I can't be expected to flirt with that much optimism. I used to really love Galactic Federation of Light stuff because the idea of not having to work at a minimum wage job every day was so attractive. I was like, oh, please God, let the UFOs come today. But you know, that's how they keep selling their wares. Now, according to Sheldon Niddle, his ability to channel messages from the Galactic Federation of Light was part of his life's work as a Sirian starseed. But what is a Sirian?
The brightest star we're able to see from Earth is Sirius, a star located in the Canis Major constellation. According to some UFO phenomenon enthusiasts and New Age thinkers, the Sirians are sentient alien beings originating from this area of space. Sirians are allegedly many alien species, not from a single planet-birthed civilization. They're a federation of sorts, who are varied in form and nature, with some even being more gaseous or immaterial than anything we would consider humanoid.
I don't know, humans can get pretty gaseous.
And so can dogs, too.
Especially my dog.
I'm a blue dog person from Sirius, so I would know.
That is true. Do you get farts in bed?
Yeah.
My dog is just...
Now he's gonna be farting the tarot cards of yours he consumed.
Yeah, my dog ate my tarot deck.
Likely excuse.
I swear, teacher. And the diversity of alien species in the Canis Major constellation is immense, basically ranging from being so bizarre they're beyond comprehension to everything you would imagine from a sci-fi TV show. Sirians also have many shades of gray when it comes to their morality and cultural outlooks. There are selfish races, imperialistic, enlightened, benevolent, and anything in between.
Just like America.
Indeed. The only thing they all have in common is their unity.
Okay, maybe not like America.
The negative civilizations are said to be focused in the Sirius B star system for the most part and prefer to avoid hostility with the other Sirians. An interesting historical fact about the Sirius B star, which is invisible to the naked eye, is that it was known to the Dogon tribe of West Africa centuries before it was discovered by science. The isolated community had little to no contact with the outside world, yet had an almost modern understanding of astronomy.
Well, I had trouble finding the exact artifact and its name for this episode. I saw on a TV program as a kid, they're like, see this toy that the Dogons play with? When you twist it in between your palms, it perfectly imitates the motion of Sirius B around Sirius A. Like as if they had an orbit toy or something that showed exactly how that star system worked. It's incredible.
The tribe is actually believed to be from Egyptian descent, but became its own culture with the history dating back to 3200 BCE. How these ancient people knew an invisible star existed that wasn't discovered until the modern telescope was invented is a mystery to this day. But while any mainstream objective answer remains elusive, the legends of the Dogon tribe tell an interesting story. This culture had an understanding of the universe long before other civilizations came to the conclusion that Earth was even a sphere. The Dogon history tells of a time when the tribe was visited by elegant blue humanoids called aquatics, who came from the world of Nomos, a planet that was comfortably warm but almost completely covered in water. They came to the tribe in a great boat that could fly like birds and exchanged knowledge about astronomy with them, including the location of their homeworld in the Canis Major constellation, and, of course, Sirius B, the invisible star. The star can't be seen in the night sky because Sirius A's intense illumination blocks it out, so it's pretty bizarre that this, by all of our modern standards, primitive tribe would know about it. Dogon artifacts dating back 400 years or more perfectly resemble the Canis Major constellation, as well as the accurate orbit of the stars, which is funny because it wasn't until 1970 that astronomers actually had the ability to view Sirius B with a telescope, well, at least an advanced telescope. The Dogons also knew about the moons of Jupiter and the rings of Saturn, which is a ton of ridiculously accurate information concerning space for such a secluded ancient African tribe. The Nomos Aquatics allegedly gifted the Dogon tribe cosmic knowledge as a sign of friendship, so they're definitely not hostile to humans if real. This ET race also supposedly visited Babylon, Akkadia, and the Sumerian civilizations, with many ancient myths that could be translated as being these blue aliens in flying boats.
And to be fair, it's not entirely certain if the Dogon are forthcoming with what they actually believe and know. Like they celebrate the coming of these beings like every 60 years or something, which sort of doesn't make sense because then the elders wouldn't really know how to do it. And so it seems that their story changes a slight bit here or there. According to Wikipedia, one member of the tribe, Ogotameli, had a description of them. The beings from another world, which he called Numo, were also referred to as water. They had green skin, covered in green hair, and were formed like humans from the loins up, but were serpent-like below the waist. Their eyes were red, their tongues forked, and their arms were flexible and unjointed, like Stretch Armstrong. Ogotameli classified the Numo as hermaphrodites. Their images or figures appeared on the female side of the Dogon sanctuary. They were primarily symbolized by the sun, which was a female symbol in the religion, and in the Dogon's language, the sun's name, Ne, had the same root as mother, Na, and cow, Na. They were symbolized by the color red, a female symbol. It goes on to say the problem of birth twins versus single births, or androgyny versus single-sex beings, was said to contribute to a disorder at the beginning of time. This theme was fundamental to Dogon religion. The jackal was alone from birth, said Ogotameli, and because of this, he did more things than can be told. Dogon males were primarily associated with single-sexed male jackal, and the Sigui festival, which was associated with death on the earth. So, if you look at that real closely, there does seem to be some overlap or maybe some ancestral inheritance from Egyptian mythology, because in Egyptian myth, most of the gods and deities do manifest as pairs. Then there's the association between the color red, the mother goddess, the cow, all kind of coming together as one thing. And we know that deities like Hathor would oftentimes have a solar disk on their head, were associated with cows. And then the jackal also being associated with earthly death sounds a lot like Anubis. And as we know, there is some association between Anubis and Sirius as well. So it's possible that they had inherited inherited quite a bit of memes from ancient Egypt.
Yeah, there was supposed to be a break-off civilization that kind of turned into its own thing. However, the Aquatics is just one of the Sirian ET races. There are so many different types of Sirians, it would be difficult to try and explain them all in a short, entertaining, the whole rabbit segment. So let's just cover the coolest ones. One of the other Sirian ET races you could call good comes from a planet orbiting the star Vega in the Lyran system. They're all vegans. I'm just kidding, cut that out. They fought in a great galactic war against the reptilian race. They lost and were forced to leave their original homeworld, going into hiding to avoid extinction or enslavement by the reptilians, and eventually settled in the Canis Major constellation among the Sirians. They're close with a cat person race, the Lyrans, the feline Lyrans, who were also forced to flee their original homeworld in the war. This race of Sirian is also called the Kate.
Kate.
The Kate.
They just sit around all day pushing stuff off the tables.
That's probably what happened to my tarot deck. To us modern humans, they could be described as looking human-like with elven-type qualities from fantasy literature.
Slink away now, little Khajiit, with your tail between your legs.
They're taller than humans, have hues of blue skin, have no body hair, so obviously the Rabbit King doesn't like them, and are more evolved than us by a good stretch, to say the least. These Sirians have even evolved to the point that they've developed extra lobes in their brains, allowing them to see far beyond humans. They can see inside and through objects, or view things in multiple dimensions, while maintaining their third-dimensional sight, which sounds pretty cool, but also maddening and confusing. Their crazy evolved brains have also granted them psychic and telepathic abilities.
So they know what you look like naked.
Probably from now until into the future as well.
Oh no.
And they're very impressed. The Kate culture, I guess, could be described as Zen-like with a focus on spirituality. Despite this, though, they're considered great warriors in the galactic community.
I bet humans could accomplish great things as well if we didn't spend so much time imagining each other without clothing.
You gotta have your priorities straight, man. This ET race was supposedly one of the early visitors to Earth around 4 or 5 million years ago. Their genes, as well as Pleiadian ET genes, were allegedly part of the ingredients to create human DNA. And the Kate assisted in the evolution process for many different animal species on the planet. But there's so much lore on aliens who supposedly had a hand in the creation of humans, you really just gotta throw this one on the pile.
Their description completely reminds me of the Na'vi from Avatar.
Yeah, except no body hair.
Yeah, I mean, but like I said, you know, stories and whatnot that we have are based on these memes that are from these granules of knowledge that we have gathered over the centuries. So I don't know. It's just interesting to see it keep showing up over and over and over again.
Totally. It's like the subconscious, unconscious themes we have and the collective unconscious that keep on coming back up over and over.
Yeah, even elves to an aspect. There's some elves that look like that too.
The Titan Sirians from Sirius B have no name, and many names because they have evolved to transcend form and space. They are essentially multidimensional consciousness in and of itself. In saying that, they also have no attachment to ego and little in the form of any personal identity. These interdimensional entities often act from quote-unquote behind the veil and interact with other species through consciousness itself. They plant seeds of higher knowledge into the collective unconscious of evolving races and help in development. However, unlike many interdimensional aliens in ET lore, they also have a physical form, and this form is much larger than ordinary humans, hence the name Titans, but not like big Titans like Greek mythology. Titans are 8 to 10 feet tall. Their appearance is odd in that they have a long, elongated head that extends down to a thin chin. Their eyes are large and wide, resembling bright blue jewels. Allegedly, looking into the eyes of one of these aliens can be a mystical and esoteric experience. Their physical appearance is just as otherworldly. Titan Sirian limbs are very long, with a bony physique. They move with extreme elegance and never seem to waste time on meaningless body movement whatsoever. But these aliens are closer to energy life forms than anything else. This non-material form of existence gives them the ability to change how they appear to others with as little as a thought. Telepathy is a form of communication they not only use but favor beyond all others. Yet, they may speak something called the light essence language, which ordinary humanoids can't utilize.
Tell that to the people on YouTube who stream 30-40 minutes of this language telling you that it'll activate your alien DNA, because it's out there. Just look up blue avians.
There's a crazy person and a sucker born every second, and they love each other. The Titans never fall short of being able to communicate with lesser aliens, though, and indeed rarely do so in a straightforward manner anyway. They mostly speak through dreams and the subconscious minds of other sentient races, with one of their key goals is to assist other developing species in becoming completely sovereign beings.
It's kind of interesting, this light essence language, because if you listen to a lot of trip stories about taking like mushrooms or ayahuasca, the entities that appear to these people use, they show them symbols that they can hold and that change in their hands, and these like little, they call them maybe like toys or little machines. It's interesting to hear people describe when they have these trips, because maybe that's the language that's being used and exchanged in that experience.
Mi namna yau huai huai huaxiki pipin I dolji kim hua huaxiki purke.
It's like when you go into the higher planes of the astral plane in that lore, communication verbally kind of disappears and everything starts to just be projections of symbolism.
Right, exactly. It's like you speak a word, but then you see it come out of your mouth and form into an object that you can handle and give to somebody else. That could be a higher form of communication and telepathy that we don't understand yet.
That's really relevant if you consider John Dee's work and Edward Kelly's work. In his diaries or his journals, John Dee explained how he was given his shoe stone by the angel, and she like crushed it into existence, right? And she's telling him, you need to learn this language. Like, one of you needs to learn this language. Edward Kelly needs to learn this language, and you need to show him how to use these tools because I'm giving you this knowledge. And, they're speaking in a celestial language. That's what, it's not in the journal, John Dee didn't call it Enochian. He called it the celestial language or the angel language.
He never used the word Enochian ever.
And this is a channeled language. It's supposed to save the world. They're using these special words and symbols to manifest tools for him and his partner to decipher and basically make a codex so that they can communicate the next time the angel comes. They don't accomplish this task, and the angel physically pumps it into Edward Kelly, and he said it was painful for a while.
Yeah, I felt like he was being squeezed from the inside out, and it was exceedingly painful. And then when he came out of it, he could understand the angelic language.
So it's not too different from that. For all we know, this is where they got the idea of this language in this part of the lore. They're like, oh, that's a good idea, ain't it? This Enochian language stuff. Like, let's do it. Let's just make it sound original in our alien UFO lore.
Like we mentioned before, this is the same guy who coined the phrase British Empire. Like, think about that for a minute, and how it went from the United Kingdom to the United States, and our great legacy of being the ones to walk on the moon first and possess the nuclear bomb and all the rest of it. Maybe aliens do participate in dominant human civilizations. Maybe that's why the government wants to keep them secret.
The technology of this race is bizarre and not even built physically at all. They integrate their mind into the quantum field of all existence, which is also their form of intergalactic travel. So though they are incredibly advanced, they have little way of showing it that most species in the universe would understand. While countless ET races have used science to grow their intergalactic civilizations, this race maintained a little understood spiritual science. The Titan Sirians believe in the source of all and are very spiritual. They have faith in a unity of all things, representing the infinite mind of the all. These aliens are mentors to other ET races who share similar spiritual beliefs. They may exist in higher dimensions, but this doesn't stop them from assisting lower beings, specifically of the Federation of Light, and they are also great teachers to those sent out in the Starseed program. It has been theorized that Pharaoh Akhenaten of the 18th dynasty was a Titan-Sirian hybrid. His appearance is similar to how Titan-Sirians are said to appear, and this pharaoh was quite a controversial figure. This is the pharaoh who tried to change Egyptian religion into a single god.
I'm also pretty sure Akhenaten is who they cloned to create Barack Obama.
It's less than ideal.
Could be, dude. I mean, that's a good point. Akhenaten was so cool. He tried to change all of their religion and condense it down into one sun god. And as soon as he died, everybody came in like a piranha attack and changed it all back and like dashed his statues and tried to cut him out of time. Like, they erased everything he did.
So, well, it seems like it might just add to the ooga boogafying of ancient Egypt or other cultures, including the Dogon, to just blatantly say that, oh, these were aliens that came and established their culture. In occult or magical traditions, that becomes a metaphor for the idea of trying to manifest the consciousness from the stars, or to harness the stellar alignments to create magical little children who then could become great leaders and help usher humanity into new and different ages, which humans have been doing for a long time. So, to discuss Sirius and its mythological relation to ancient Egypt, traditionally, the heliacal rising of Sirius into the sky heralded the end of the worst part of the summer heat, which was exceedingly unpleasant and often deadly, culminating in the flooding of the Nile, which brought new life and marked the beginning of the new year. It was during this height of summer heat, the ancient tradition dictated the sacrifice of dogs, which is where the terminology dog days of summer finds its ancient origins. This is likely where the colloquial association with dogs and Sirius was first formed. To the ancient Egyptians, the star itself was known as Sodpet and was a personification of Isis, the Great Mother, and the wife consort of Osiris, who the Orion constellation personified in the form of Sa.
The killer awoke before dawn. He put his boots on.
Their child, Sodpu, was the personification of Horus in the form of Venus, who was a hawk and the Lord of the East. The connection between Sirius and the Orion constellation can be seen with the naked eye, as Orion's belt points to Sirius, which is also the brightest actual star in the sky. Sodpet was depicted as a woman with a 5-pointed star upon her head, usually with a horned headjet similar to Satis. In the Ptolemaic and Roman period, the European notion of the dog star caused her to sometimes be represented as a large dog or a woman riding one side saddle. In Greco-Roman Egypt, the male Sodpet was conflated with the dog-headed Anubis and was given the name Sothis.
And then there are the Sirian insectoid race.
Uh-oh.
These tall insectoids are usually around 7 or 8 feet tall. Their body is slim, with weird joints and no thumbs on their hands. They have spiny legs and tiny suction organs on their toes. Their eyes are purple or blue for the most part, and large and almond-shaped. Despite being called insectoids, they have little noses and lips, too.
So if you suck on their feet suck back?
Yes, Mal knows from experience. Sirian insectoids are pretty neutral and have a focus on themselves and their own benefits, unlike many of the other Sirian races. In fact, they are not above breaking the rules here and there, and even going against political norms. They've even broken cosmic law on occasion. Many of the quote-unquote good Sirians are working on their development and helping them achieve full consciousness, but the resistance has made it a slow process. One thing I don't like about some of this lore is how they consider the more evil races to have lower consciousness. It's like evil has just as much of a place at the table as good does, so it just doesn't make sense to me.
I don't want to talk about it here. I have a good point. I have a good point against that.
Do you? I would love to hear about it.
Well, if they're living, then they're on the side of the living. They're doing something good, and then they're not totally bad. So what is good and evil then?
Yeah,
your whole argument falls apart because you're conceptualizing. That's the only thing I can say to that. But that I get what you're saying, but what is good and evil? And then it's well, I can't really logically back that up. Anyway, got to continue.
It's just that it seems that they're downplaying that the evil races are lesser intelligence and consciousness, which doesn't make sense.
I think I'm picking up what you're putting down because it sounds a lot like colonization, and they have this resistance to our ways, and they're obviously savages.
Yeah, they respect their own culture, right? Just because it's not goody-goody woo-woo, all hold hands, sing along, doesn't mean that it shouldn't exist and doesn't have just as much of a right to exist as anyone else.
It does seem a little white man's burden. Hecka was saying, oh, you savages don't understand our high vibrational ways, and that's why you're so backwards and evil. Stupid insect person.
Which in and of itself seems backwards. Anyway, their world is filled with crazy, bizarre insects, and the Sirian insectoids actually specialize in genetic manipulation concerning such life. However, their technology isn't as advanced as the other Sirians. They travel through space in oval globe-like spaceships, and they have to do things much like humans do in a mundane, practical manner. This species is only barely starting to move into the 4th dimension, so they are in a similar situation as Earth in this Galactic Federation alien lore.
Imagine you ascend to the 4th dimension and you still get insect bites, but they're 4-dimensional insect bites now.
That would be so itchy.
And then the little maggots spring out of the wound and they're like, Mommy! And you're like, no.
Coming at you in 20 different angles of multiple dimensions of the multiverse. You're like, dude, this is so annoying. I'm just trying to go to sleep.
That's what a mind flayer does in D&D.
That's a mind flayer.
But you're so high dimensional that now you have to raise the maggots as your own children because that's It's a high vibrational thing to do. Yes, I'm your mommy. Okay. Let me pull out my nipples.
Yeah, you don't want to be a backwards primitive insectoid, right?
No.
The Sirians are basically a cosmopolitan mix of aliens, with a whole bunch of them clustered together in a tight-knit area. Many more exist that we haven't covered, but those races also still need to be discovered. So go ahead and go do some channeling on that, Mal.
Or just go watch Star Wars. It sounds basically like the Republic. All right, if we want to continue doing a great injustice to our ancestral mythology, let's talk about the Annunaki, shall we?
And straight from the Old Testament of the Bible are the Nephilim, Annunaki, or the Aldebaran. These deities are found in the mythological traditions of the Sumerians, Akkadians, Assyrians, and Babylonians. Basically, many super old human civilizations of the Near East believe in a form of these beings. They come from the planet Nibiru, also called Planet X, which has some interstellar connection to our solar system.
It's technically inside our solar system. It just has a really irregular orbit where they're not there most of the time. But then it comes back around, and then supposedly the Anunnaki show up.
In 1849, ancient tablets of Babylon were discovered in the Near East that dates back to the 7th century BCE. The tablets depict the Anunnaki, who are described in the tablets as descending from the heavens in flying vehicles of some sort. Many depictions and carvings can be translated as sci-fi in nature, with a little imagination. The Anunnaki style of dress was similar to the ancient Persian, though this style was found in many of the cultures of the surrounding area. These aliens are taller and larger than humans, but otherwise pretty much indistinguishable from us. They're also more muscular, at least to most sources.
Giga-Chan, Aryan aliens.
The Anunnaki are immune to disease and don't physically age past a certain point, making their lifespans eternal unless they're killed by a means other than old age.
Like prostate complications.
So they can hypothetically live forever, but are still mortal, if you get what I'm saying. After internal conflict, it was agreed upon within the ranks of the Anunnaki to create a slave species as a source of manual labor. Primitive bipeds on the planet were an ideal choice for this servant race, so the Anunnaki mixed their genes with them to create humankind, and here we are. There were many experiments, versions, and mistakes, but eventually they had their slave race to mine their precious metal for them. However, they purposely made humans weaker than themselves, with short lifespans, among many more biological vulnerabilities. So according to many ET versions of the Anunnaki, humans were created with no sense of morality, purpose, or philosophical meaning. Primitive man was a resource to be exploited and nothing more.
That's pretty much what the men in suits told Jimmy Carter, right? So who knows? Deep down inside, I can't help but feel there's a tiny bit of truth to that.
Me too.
Now, according to Sumerian myth, the whole purpose of creating humans was not so much about metalworking, but baking bread to feed the gods, like in Jack and the Beanstalk. Apparently, even aliens with infinite lifespans get sick of cooking for themselves. The idea of making humans purposefully weaker than them was also a motif, although this was said to have occurred after the flood. They wanted to wipe us out for being too loud, but Enki lobbied for us, and the result was getting a handful of nerfs on our latest patch update. The pain of pregnancy, disease, short lives, and prostate problems were all part of that deal.
That patch really mixed up the meta.
It did.
Even in older scriptures, if you read, the human lifespan used to be hundreds and hundreds of years. And then somehow after the flood, we only lived for like 100 years at the most.
Indeed. The fucking dicks.
I kind of hate them a little bit, let's be honest.
The Anunnaki are a religious civilization with their own code of ethics, but they are not benevolent. Though there were Anunnaki who were agreeable to humans, if even fond of them, they were a minority. Violence is a common tool to be used in their culture. Their character is individualistic, with many shades of gray to their morality, just like humans. These beings could be giants mentioned in many ancient accounts. Their size and strength are drastically superior to humanity. In any case, though, the slave race they created looked upon them like they were gods, with some of these so-called gods even having hybrid children with humans, whom some consider being the great heroes of myth and legend. And those descendants are the elite puppet masters who rule us behind the scenes to this present day.
Like the Nephilim, right? The hybrid creatures between the gods and the human beings.
I think he means the actual puppet masters and powers that be that rule over the earth. You know, the ones that are like so obsessed with their genealogy. As we know in the past, the elite have considered themselves blue bloods and are very selective about mixing their genes with the plebs. So there's some truth to the idea that the elites consider themselves more than, if not entirely different to, the rest of humanity. Perhaps they even believe that their lineage goes all the way back to the Anunnaki that we're discussing today. Maybe that's what they're really into.
There are measurable physical effects from this too, apparently, with bone structure and also blood types.
Yeah, are you an O negative?
I'm not. I don't know what I am, but no, probably not. It's super rare.
According to this narrative, eventually the so-called gods had to leave Earth. Accounts vary on why, but a common take is that the Anunnaki were at war back within their own territory of space, either against some unknown enemy or civil war amongst themselves. But it was also said that they would one day return. However, humanity's reception of its creators is unlikely to be beneficial to our own civilization.
This is what I wonder. Is this what the elites are preparing for? I think that we should hijack their ships and steal their stuff when they come back.
Hell yeah.
Designing us with so many flaws on purpose is a dick move, and we deserve revenge. Can you imagine being forever young? Think about it. The Anunnaki are the reason our tits and balls get saggy and wrinkled. They deserve no mercy for this injustice. Nobody likes getting older, and anybody who says that, they are lying and an Anunnaki simp. Do you really think we'd ruin the planet so readily if we had perky tatas forever? Why, I think not.
Good point.
This version of the Anunnaki is kind of a bummer. We can all agree on that. It originates from a man named Zechariah Sitchin that wrote many popular books on the subject after allegedly deciphering the ancient Babylonian tablets. I got super into these books for a bit about 10 years ago, and while thinking them fascinating, never really took them seriously.
Oh, how could you not take Zechariah Sitchin so seriously?
I don't really take anything seriously. I don't think anyone knows anything, but
I'm with you on that.
then you're smart. You are very smart, Mari. Look at that high IQ. But there turned out to be a lot of holes in Sitchin's theories later. Like, I didn't know about this at the time. I only learned about this later. But there are definitely a lot of holes in Sitchin's theories.
Maybe you didn't read the latest edition of his books. That's where he fixed all the problems, I guess. Probably not.
It's more complicated than that.
Actually,
back in the day when he wrote the books, the Sumerian language was only known to a select few experts. In recent times, not so much. So there were actually tons of inaccuracies found in Sitchin's translations. He was very frivolous and strained in assigning meanings to ancient words. The man constantly quotes out of context connections that distort evidence, and he used inaccurate references many times throughout his research. And many words he presented as facts were straight up translated wrong. Now, to be fair, a lot of Sitchin's mistakes could be from the technological limitations of the time, so it's not all his fault. It's not like he was trying to weave yarn, but it's blatantly obvious that he was biased and released information as fact when he wasn't sure. He also avoided presenting evidence that contradicted his own theories and translations. And if you see somebody with confirmation bias, probably shouldn't really believe that person. Just saying. His astrological findings were wrong too, with hundreds of Sumerian calendars recently decoded and translated as only having 5 planets, and not the 12 Sitchin claims. It turned out he translated stars as planets on many occasions. In truth, Sitchin's linguistics, anthropology, biology, and astronomy were far from professional. He even completely ignores the world outside of Mesopotamia, which was originally what broke me out of that narrative reality tunnel. Because there's so much going on around the world, why doesn't he talk about it, right? And it is proven he really didn't even understand the Babylonian language he often uses as a reference. Now, what does this mean? A lot of what he says is wrong, and the Anunnaki are more myth than ancient aliens. However, Sitchin's work has spawned many versions of the Anunnaki and contradicting theories in the New Age ET community, as well as others, such as the Anunnaki didn't create humans with their own genes. We were already here. They just altered a select small group of humanity for slave labor, or that the Anunnaki were a product of the reptilians' hybrid experiment with the Sirian aliens, making the Anunnaki a member of the alleged ET reptilian Draconic Empire.
Oh!
Or there's also the Nephilim being fallen angels from the Bible, and we're a hybrid of Anunnaki and humans. Others even say that they have changed their ways to become quote-unquote good guys, wanting humanity to ascend to a higher state of consciousness.
That's why they formed the Freemasons, right?
Shh, nobody's supposed to know about that. The information regarding this ET race is pretty much as contradictory as it gets. Even the Sumerians were unable to keep their story straight in their ancient tablets, and much of these pseudoscience claiming to know the Anunnaki to be real history get basic facts in many categories constantly wrong. So take any information you find on this alien race with a grain of salt. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not trying to give you the black pill on the Anunnaki. That could still be creepy d***s. Who knows? Maybe we are just a hybrid alien slave race floating on a ball of resources for the gathering in space. And the Anunnaki's home planet Nibiru is en route back to Earth to put us all back in our place. Anything is possible, and Sitchin could totally be right.
Oh man, back in the day I read some description of these inhabitants of Planet X, and they're like these giant lizard people that all dress in like Roman soldier garb, and they're kind of like cool and slow moving and chilled out until they get near the sun, which makes them extremely excited and bloodthirsty, and then they just come to Earth every so often as Nibiru's on its orbit close to Earth, and they come down here and like party and do the non-consensual with all the human whammons and drink our blood and eat shrimp kebabs and sit around by the pool, and then they jump back on their spaceship and leave until the next go around.
Yeah, and it also doesn't always cause a great flood when it gets close.
Oh, that would be a problem.
Yeah, that's just sometimes that it does that.
That's when they want to play on the water slide.
Yeah, that's when it's the water party time.
Woo! So the Sumerian pantheon reminds me a little bit of the ancient Egyptian mythology. The parental figures of the Anunnaki are An, the Sky Daddy, and then there's Ki, the Earth Mommy. Enlil, the eldest and presumably child of An and Ki, was also responsible for holding the two parents apart. After all, as long as they were one, there could be no creation. Enlil was the chief god of the whole pantheon and ruled the element of air. It was he, Enlil, who would inherit the earth, while his father, An, would inherit the sky. Enlil was also to be worshipped by the Babylonians, who believed it was he who caused the great flood to be unleashed. He's often represented as a storm deity and shares lineage to the prototypical Zeus/Jupiter as the king of the gods. Enlil is also sometimes associated with Marduk, who slays Tiamat, the dragon of chaos, the reptilians. Naturally, the Sumerian, Babylonian, and Akkadian believers in the Anunnaki saw them as good guys. On the other hand, they also believed humans existed specifically to serve them. I thought the bit about Enlil holding apart the Sky Daddy and the Earth Mommy, with him being the Lord of the Air, was a lot how Shu is described as holding up his mother Nui and separating him from Geb. Of course, the mom and dad roles are switched in that case, but it's a very similar story.
If we're coming from a position where we're in a reality where we're taking this like Anunnaki lore seriously, I would say that the Anunnaki were more esoteric than ancient aliens, but that's just what I think. But let's move on to a race that is not that talked about in the Starseed community and more associated with straight up good old-fashioned ufology. The Tall Whites. Out of the massive lore of dozens of supposed alien races that make up the UFO phenomenon, the Tall Whites, sometimes referred to as Nordics, are probably one of the least frightening because they appear similar to humans. Their humanoid appearance often has them mistaken as Pleiadians, to which, at first glance, yeah, they do seem kind of interchangeable. However, the Tall Whites are an entirely different race, and winners of the Most Original Name Award. Whistleblowers claim that the United States military has been in cahoots with these aliens since the 50s. Specifically the Air Force. They're described as human-looking for the most part, just huge, sometimes taller than 8 feet. They have blonde, white hair, often stark white, basically across the board. They look like albinos. In appearance, they're very individualistic, just like humans. So each one looks unique, pretty much.
So the white people on Earth can tell these people apart. I wonder why.
Because they're the same. But like, nah, all Nordics look the same. That's just a fact.
But they basically just look like albinos. They're tall and have a white, chalky complexion. The alien's most common eye color is... Where did I put? I forgot to put the actual color.
It's blue or green.
It's obviously blue or green. These are the space Caucasians.
Yeah, the aliens
Space
most
Caucasian.
Though there have been many reported exceptions. The Tall Whites walk funny on Earth because their bodies are used to stronger gravity, so they look kind of goofy. They're normally reported to wear jumpsuits of white or blue. Contactees have reported a variety of colors, though. They live to be insanely old, up to 800 years of age, and don't age similar to how human beings age at all. I'll get to that in a moment. The only comparison to humans is size, until they reach the age of 400. Then their growing process goes crazy. These ETs can appear like giants to us depending on their age. They also age out of their bodies, so they die from their bones being too big.
Whoa, dude, that's metal.
The Tall Whites have individualized talents and interests with varying intellectual capabilities, just like us on Earth. Just like how Mari is like such a high Q 160 type of person.
Oh, no. Not that. More like 115, 120.
You don't have to be humble. They use technology to communicate with humans telepathically and are known to carry devices on them with telekinetic capabilities they use to defend themselves or perform manual labor.
I wish I had telekinetic capabilities to defend myself from manual labor.
Don't we all? On their home planet, days are much longer, so they usually stay awake for 2 to 3 days at a time on our world, then sleep about the same amount of time they were awake. Comparably, the Tall Whites spend more time sleeping than humans, equal to half their lifespan even.
I think Hecate Astra might be a tall white hybrid. I'm just going to throw it out there. I think it's possible.
I'm way too short.
I was going to say, you're like a toy version of that breed.
Yeah, but your astral body gets too big for your actual body, and you tend to have a longer day and night system than is native to Earth.
Well, that.
I would love if my day lasted 3 days. I would get so much done.
The tall whites have never revealed their homeworld to any contactee, but seem to revere the star Arcturus. It's very important to them, or at least something by it is. Maybe their teachers are another alleged ET species that we talked about on the last episode, the Arcturians, but who knows? They don't spill the beans or elaborate. The tall whites don't die of old age like most humanoid species in the cosmos. Some unstable nature of their genes causes them to outgrow their bones as they get older, which is incredibly painful. Researchers have speculated that these aliens have had such an interest in humans because of their genetic stability and adaptability. The tall whites' painful death by essentially outgrowing their bodies could be from genetic tinkering gone wrong. However, any such notions on the matter have no basis in factual encounters given by contactees. Yet again, they don't spill the beans. My guess is they probably did screw with their genes. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds like man-made horrors beyond my comprehension.
That's why when they hybridize humans, they tend to be tinier.
More efficient.
Hecka. There are many historical references, ancient alien theorists point out, indicating that the tall whites visited Earth in our past. But they say that about all aliens. And sadly, it's become kind of a joke to the ET research community, like the Aztec mythology of white gods and such. However, little evidence exists of their presence on Earth, suggesting they didn't land here until the 1950s, after we got them nukes going, if you know what I mean.
Oh, let's get into that. I want to talk about that.
They like land and they're like, it's time to stop.
Well, this race is interesting because they actually land here specifically for dumb purposes. They have us manufacture stupid crap to put in their like radios and junk like that. Not kidding. It's part of their deal. But throughout the tall whites' history, their spacecraft technology has often changed drastically, allegedly. Their current ships are all different from one another, according to Charles Hall, a nuclear physicist, U.S. Air Force whistleblower. The UFO witnesses have different tales depending on what their spacecraft looks like. However, the classic saucer shape is the most common.
Of course.
The tall whites allegedly shared some of their technology with the Air Force over a decent amount of time. The classified meetings took place on a remote no-fly zone base in the desert with extremely limited access. Charles Hall, one of the handful of non-combatant Air Force personnel, was allowed to sit in on these meetings for the nuclear physicist's scientific input. He and others like him were essential to the Air Force commander's less scientific minds during the decision-making process. Hall interacted with the aliens many times during the technological exchanges, even sitting across from them during negotiations. He concluded that they were plant eaters, never eating any food of the Air Force, never eating any food the Air Force provided at the meetings. Instead, they would eat from prepared bags of what looked like mushroom pudding to Hall. He also noticed them collecting earth seeds on many occasions, concluding that the tall whites were most likely vegetarians. So it's also these ETs had a meeting with President Eisenhower to end the government's nuclear warhead building in exchange for advanced technology. This happened in 1954 under the guise of Eisenhower needing immediate dental surgery, but that was just a cover story, so he could treat with the tall whites in secrecy. This meeting didn't end well, though. It said shortly after, the Greys offered Eisenhower a different deal for advanced tech, and he could also, on top of that, keep developing nukes.
You hear this story a lot. He was said to have declined on the grounds that if advanced species like the tall whites were afraid of nukes, we had every reason to keep them around. He's like, well, if you guys are scared of them, I'm keeping them. So while doing research for our last episode, I heard that he accomplished the second deal with the Greys by journeying deep underneath Mount Shasta as the, quote, Archon of Humanity, where he finalized the deal with the King of the Earth, who was a Garthan, and then was given, quote, the keys to the USA as part of the deal. If only Eisenhower had struck the deal with the tall whites instead of the Greys, the world would have become a hippie utopia instead of a fentanyl-laced dystopia it is today. Thanks, Eisenhower!
At least it's a comfy dystopia. I mean, Demolition Man isn't the worst dystopia to be stuck in.
Look, I don't need a history lesson. Come on, Hal! Where the goddamn guns?
You are fined 1 credit for a violation of the verbal morality standard.
What? F you.
right. But the Greys just basically wanted to abduct people and experiment on the American populace without question, with any civilian stories or worries suppressed by the government. And supposedly Eisenhower actually accepted this deal. A boon in the tech industry shortly followed.
If you ever meet Laura Eisenhower, his granddaughter, she will personally attest to a number of these ideas being a fact. I know because I personally attended a number of her lectures and for a short while afterwards kept accidentally bumping into her at Sharky's Mexican Grill.
Really? That's awesome.
I'm not kidding. It was like I bumped into her at least 3 times at Sharky's. And by the second or third time, she like kind of looked at me out the side of her head like, is this guy part of the Luciferian agenda that's sent to follow me around?
You're like, nah, bitch, I just want some tacos.
Tacos are pretty good.
No, Laura, I just worship the devil, and the devil's putting me here on your path. Because she would do these PowerPoints where she's like, okay, and this is the part I didn't like. She'd be like, here's all these movies, and I have arranged them according to their objective light frequency. These movies down here, these ones with Kevin Spacey, they're bad, okay? Bad for your soul. The Demolition Man, very bad for your soul. But The Secret, oh yes, The Secret is the most high vibrating movie ever made. And every time you watch it, you get spirit XP. Like, she was dead serious. Like,
how do you know this? I read Dr. Quantum comics. Everybody thinks it's just kid stuff, but I know it's real. That's how I do my magic on the cord.
You do you.
All I'm getting from this is tacos and aliens, and Mexican aliens is starting to trigger me. So can we continue?
Contactees often say the tall whites don't pose a threat to humans and pretty much just want to exchange stuff with the government. They also mainly used Air Force bases as a rest stop for deep space travel. They seem to have no ulterior motives and don't go around abducting humans against their will.
Good!
Not much is known of any religion the tall whites may subscribe to either, though they do seem to have a spiritual aspect to them. Whistleblower Charles Hall overheard a woman reference God while talking to the aliens, and they seem to understand the reference, treating it respectively. Hall has mentioned the tall whites being envious of certain human abilities, like the ability to multitask. No jokes for that?
I think that's fascinating. Like, they are single-pointed focus and awareness, and then we're over here like, oh yeah, I'm still listening. Well, we're like texting on Facebook or whatever.
We're able to defocus and we have a wider range of vision, and even with our thought processes, it's a wider scope that we can, you're not really focused on any one thing, but you're defocused on an array of things at one time.
Dude, if I'm not taking my ADHD medication, it's like 10 people talking in my head at once with like loud heavy metal music blaring in the background.
Oh, overstimulation.
But yeah, these aliens for the most part can only focus on one thing at a time. And to humans, like to us, people have described them as seeming kind of robotic. They also admired the tremendous physical damage human bodies can take and how quickly our bodies heal. Though that doesn't mean that they view humans as even close to their level as a civilized culture. They still see themselves as completely superior to us. But they also they look at humans as rough and tumble creatures, to quote Hall directly.
Hell yeah, we are.
Kind of flattering.
It is flattering, but it seems like kind of like they can't heal as fast as us. Like, what?
Well, they must be frail and fragile if they're so slender and, they don't really have to do a lot of physical activity, it seems like.
It makes you think like their genetic tampering has kind of damaged their DNA structure.
Well, we eat cows and chickens and bugs and stuff like that to get our protein.
True.
Yeah, and they're eating like mushroom paste, right?
Yeah, and
space vegans.
I hear it a lot too, that the reason why they don't contact us directly and completely change our world is because they love us and they see us kind of like a zoo, but more like a nature preserve, and that like if they don't do it, like even the bad guys don't want us to change. Like both sides of this cosmic war that's going on behind the scenes here between these races, none of them want to like completely blow up our planet. Like they kind of want the human nature to still exist because they don't have that, and that's what makes us magical, I guess, from our perspective, right? And we have an ability to be both divine and very animalistic at the same time, and they can't do that.
We're a quantum Barbie's Malibu dream house.
We're a microcosm of the macrocosm.
And learn to love it, I guess, at some point.
It's kind of fun, I guess.
We do have tacos here.
Yeah, that's the dream, but it doesn't feel so good. There's definitely an argument that this is a black iron prison at the same time.
Definitely like a Dark Souls theme going on in this world.
They don't have that. They live forever. Like even in our suffering, they envy our pain. Like like they're like, oh, they regenerate fast, and it's
Thank you. Like that's one thing that you never read in the books is like the dark side is still appealing to them, and like our dark side, the bad stuff we have to endure, our ability to live such short lives. Why would that be appealing to them? But it is.
Why do we like media and fiction in general? It's short stories. It's contained. It's our creation.
It's easy to imagine them seeing us like that because even for ourselves, when we look at our past, it's usually for some reason through rose-colored lenses. Like we can look back on the bad times and often we remember the best parts about it.
Like 9/11? You could cut that out.
Did you, steel beams don't melt.
The trick-or-treating wasn't that good that year, but it was still the early 2000s, you know? POD just released their latest album. Grand Theft Auto 3 had just come out.
Also, remember Building 7.
No, forget Building 7. Don't talk about it, Mari. We don't talk about Building 7. It never happened.
What about the Pentagon that had the Phantom plane hit it?
Oh, yeah. There were no wing marks in it or debris anywhere.
I'll see you in court.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Anyway, our discovery of nuclear weapons greatly frightened these aliens because they didn't want to see the planet capable of supporting life to be wasted in meaningless wars. Tall whites would never step in against our will as a species. Another theme of people not violating our free will. There seems to be a code of conduct in the galactic community that doesn't allow spacefaring civilizations to interfere with developing sentient species, like Mao was saying.
Well, it's kind of funny because even the Greys had to strike a deal, supposedly, with the U.S. government, be like,
Can we abduct some of your women and put eggs in them, please?
And they're like, yeah, dude, you give us some UFO stuff, sure. They're like,
okay.
Like, they had to ask. They didn't just do it.
Also, we'll take this cow, too.
Slicing up hella cows. Yeah, it's like there's a cosmic law or something.
We feed on your butthole juices.
So good.
You doing anything with that herd of hippos there? Can we take those two?
No.
But if you'd like to hear the rest of this episode, where we talk about the 9, the giant mantis beings, the Flatwoods Monster, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will not only get you all of our extended episodes going back multiple years, I'll send you a 5x5 high-quality vinyl sticker of our cover art, and you'll get the secret keys to our Discord server, where you can talk to us about the unique phenotypes of the aliens who abducted you and your little dog, too. Thank you, everybody. Eat carrots and shoot lasers.
Pew, pew.
Our enemies are innovative and resourceful, and so are we. They never stop thinking about new ways to harm our country and our people, and neither do we.